Hey everybody, it's Ricky, and it's All Sorts of Words. All Sorts of Words is the channel, not my name. My name is Ricky. I wanted to have a, a fun conversation this Thursday about here. You'll have to forgive me while we're talking. I'm putting together the Instagram friends who wanted invites. I wanted to talk about the things that make this hobby not so great. I don't want to say there's like an infection of positivity. I don't think positivity is ever really a bad thing, but I do think that there is such a thing as toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is when you enjoy something so much that you become blind to the problems that it presents, blind to the issues that it has. And if you really love something, you're willing to tell it that you want to be constructive, you want to see it grow, get better, have more people like it. Um, there's already a comment in the chat that I will get to in a second about just that, like a younger community that doesn't feel connected. That's very real. Here we go. Inviting some friends for all of us. Okay, so immediately right away, Richard with the hey Ricky as the fourth thing. This is the fourth thing he sent. The first thing he said, issues with comic books, things that are hurting comic books, poor storytelling, variant covers, CGC scams, younger generation not interested in the hobby. Um, Poor storytelling, that's hard. I enjoy a lot of what's out there right now. A lot of stuff that people dog on, I like a lot. I really like the Batman Who Laughs. I have two boxes. One of them's right here. I'll show it to you. This box right here. This short box is the second half, just the second half of everything you need to read about the Batman Who Laughs. I'm halfway through it in reading order. I'm on Dark Knight's Metal, and I'm enjoying myself. It's pew pew action figure superhero storytelling. You know what I mean? In the way that there's like a goofy villain, the Batman Who Laughs, and then the heroes just kind of, I don't know, like he's dark but he's cool. I like Hellraiser. Don't get at me. Variant covers. I can't say anything about variant covers because I have a short box full of just variant covers. It's just the Vampirella variant covers. I have a short box that's full of them. CGC scams. Did they solve it? Is CGC done with the scamming? Can you no longer scan CGC? Have they buttoned up the ship? I will admit I have never, not once, not never, bought a single CGC, like done a submission. I've never done it. Maybe one day for cameras and for the walls, but like, no, I don't like CGC. For younger generation not interested in the hobby, I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm 38. You don't want me hanging out with kids and asking them. So I don't really know if that's the case. Critton Bull, how are you? I just watched your video. Critton Bull has a channel, Critton Bull Comics, and he just released a fantastic video about something I care deeply about, how the 90s-ification of comics in the 90s. Here we go. Judge Death pretending to be Batman. This is what you do to me, Bleecker. Bleecker just says these things because he knows they hurt me, but I can't refute them. It's literally Judge Death's mask, which I love. Comic Collector Geek. Hi, Alan. He could be joining us soon. Bleecker Street Comics. Yeah, he is pretending. He's not pretending to be Judge Death, but I see what you're saying. Okay. Let's just start. Things I think are not so great for the hobby. Here's the qualifying point, though. The hobby has to have a definition, right? So the hobby, there are different avenues that you can take when you're collecting comic books. There are people who like legitimately don't even collect comic books. They just follow the market because they find it interesting. That's a collector of information. It is a type of collector. There's a person who collects the comics. There's a person who reads the comics. There's a person who read the trades exclusively. I had a friend who he constantly, like every 2 months, he had to get on a plane and fly from New Hampshire to Colorado for like 3 weeks. He'd be there for work and then he'd come back. He did this every 2 months or so. And his ritual was that he would go to the airport, and he would buy whatever trades they had at the airport. If it was only volume 4 and 5 of a series or whatever, it doesn't matter. He would buy those trades and he would read them by the time that he lands. And so that's how he collected comic books. He had all these crazy trades, but they were all over the place in terms of like number and style and all that jazz. So there's different types of collectors. So I'm talking about things that are bad for the hobby that like, let me give you an example. I think there's a use and a place for CGC. I think there's a purpose to it. I can spend real money and kind of approximate the quality of a book and then verify that the book is real and buy it through the internet. That's kind of a magical service, right? eBay only recently has started authenticating things like shoes, but CGC effectively it was the name in authentication. There are reprint scams and other variants out there that like not every single collector is aware of. And so CGC serves that real purpose to the community. Um, their effectiveness at the grading, I'm not crazy about. Slapping a label on my comic seems kind of like I'm treating it like meat at a certain point. I don't dig that either. So there's problems that I have with CGC as a concept. But if you're a CGC collector, then I mean, what do you care what I think? Who cares? But I think CGC engenders some pretty gross standards in the comic book industry. I think ugly books, like books with tears, books with holes, writing on them, I think they're kind of like the bride not asked to the ball, or however that saying goes. George Bush or George Herbert Walker Bush. Um, so yeah, I think CGC has done some damage to the respectability of the books that have prominence, the books that have like those little dings, cuts, corners that give them character. I love books like that. Um, Here, I see so many people in the chat. Tell me something, chat. Like, what are you, what else? Richard, you had another one. Richard had number 5. Lack of innovation and new stories, new characters, Spider-Boy, just variations of existing characters. Okay, so innovation and new stories kind of dovetails with the thing earlier that you said about like writing you don't like. But the new characters or variations. Okay, I want to address that. People always get a little animated, have a little couple extra opinions when there is a character who changes the cape and cowl is passed on. People get a little upset. Typically, because unless it is the same race, age, religion of the character that they're becoming, then people think that there is some sort of like agenda or like fight happening for the soul of America, and people get really serious about it on every single side of the fence. And I don't think it's that serious. I think it's kind of logical. Like the Punisher shoots people for a living. That's what the Punisher does. That's his whole character. He shoots people. So it makes sense that eventually the Punisher gets shot back. It makes sense that eventually the Punisher would die. However, now in this world, the Punisher meant something to people. Everybody's got that Batman effect. You become a little bit more than a man, a little less than a legend. And so, like, wouldn't somebody else, wouldn't somebody else pick up that mantle? I think that'd be pretty common, or just copycats. What if there's one Frank Castle in the real world, right? And there's like 70 copycats all over the country because they just show up in the t-shirt and they feel tough. So then the real Frank Castle is now competing with other fake Frank Castles. And then as the real Frank Castle dies, now you have an eternal death of Superman story where someone is always getting the mantle pass and nobody knows who it really is. I remember the cough button for actually coughing. Oh, Richard wants to jump on. More than welcome to, sir. Of course you can. Richard's jumping on. Here, I'm having it. Look at my Slurpee cup, my water. Francine Castle. I like that. I like that a lot. That's good. But you just gave it up. Now, if Marvel uses Francine Castle, you're doomed. You don't have a claim. You don't have a claim. My favorite one is, but it's a real one, Galactus. I really like that. So Yeah, so that's also kind of a hot take and a hot take. I don't really care, and I think it makes sense that, like, when a character dies and you pass on the mantle to somebody else, I think it only makes sense that you would have someone that might not look like you. Um, here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. Other side of the fence for a second. Don't think for a second I don't lose the fact that there's a boardroom somewhere in Marvel Comics where there's just like a smoky room, hazy lights, like a movie theater in the 70s, and you just see like only every now and then you catch the look on someone's face from a glow from their cigar. Make the next one black. Like it, I don't feel for a second that those people have the best interest of communities at heart. I feel like it starts from a place of grossness and then they eventually hire someone to represent them. So it's not gross. And then it's still the thought behind it is gross. Um, so oh, that's a whole other thing. Oh, here we go. Here's a friend for everybody. Hold on. Need a partner. Hey,
Hey,
buddy.
hey, Ricky. Sorry for crashing your stream. I just wanted to say something about like the variants. I think it was number 6 that I talked about.
Sure.
You, Brandon from Mon Comics, and Mike from Lunch Money Comics. They're always talking about going to go read local comic book creators and uh, non-Marvel and DC books. And I think one of the problems is with Marvel and DC is just rehashing the same characters, rehashing some of the same stories, and just creating variants of more of the same. Spider Girl, Spider Man, Spider Boy. It just becomes a whole family of more of the same characters. And recently, Mike from Lunch Money Comics had a creator, Ben Taz, and he created his own comic book. And this is the first and only comic book that I have that's not Marvel, DC, and Dark Horse. And I've always said I've always been like a bad fan. Like I tell Marvel and DC, give me something new. You guys are getting stale, you're getting boring. Then they give it to me. Then I complain and say, go back to what's your bread and butter. And with this um, new comic book, for new characters, it's just been amazing, absolutely amazing. Because I don't have any expectations.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Richard, what's up?
Hey, Brandon.
Dude, if I'd known Richard was going to be here, I would have been on sooner. I'm taking a shower. Well, I guess I got pretty. So, no, I was just like over here reading the chat. I was looked like a moron when you came on live. I was like, these are really good points.
No, I definitely just wanted to.
Yeah.
I want this to be a call show. Anybody wants to call? Richard's like, hey, I got something to say. Hop on.
Yeah, the indie comics that you guys continue to talk about, it's the first time I've ever tried it and just absolutely fell in love with it. And I never really understood it because, it's Marvel, it's DC, it's characters that Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Why would you not want to watch more of those as those are the big players. But after buying this comic book from Ben Taz, I completely understand why people deviate to the indie comic books because they could do new, innovative, creative ideas, characters, something that you're not invested in.
Yeah, but so think of it here. I'm like bending over, like grabbing comics because you're talking about indie. And I'm like, I love indie. But here's what I think is really funny about this hobby is like you already understand the spirit of the person who would go to indie because you went to comics. So like you've already immigrated to the West. You were reading books, you were hanging out with your friends at school, you were playing video games, and you were like, yeah, but there's also this thing over here called comic books, and I want to go check that out. And so you did. But then like once you were there on that island, there are some people that just said, hey, let's keep digging down. And so, like, some people stayed on the island, the island of initial comic books, your Supermans, your Batmans, your Spider-Mans, your X-Men's. And then after those people lived there, some people just kept drilling down. And then some people stopped and some people kept drilling even further. And that's where you get like horny biker slut #1. and those other weird books that I keep finding out there. Anytime I find a book that looks absolutely stupid. Okay, I do want to share.
I can attest to that. You've shared some pictures, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Okay, so I want to here. Let me. How do I do this? Screen share? No, I'm hitting the buttons wrong.
It's okay if I just wanted to say that one thing about indie comic books, and I think that's kind of hurting the comic book industry as well. Is like you said, Marvel and DC just go back to the same well, and people like me don't go and search for other characters, other stories. Don't go outside of my comfort zone. And when I finally did, it was it, fulfilling, I guess.
You're spitting the gospel. I've seen the light, everybody. I read the indies, and they're good. Richard, thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Yep. Sorry again to jump in and
never.
Dude, I'm so pumped. When I came on stream, I was like, holy crap, Richard Westfall's here. You're in,
thanks,
dude.
buddy. See you later. He's the best.
That was awesome.
Oh, so I did want to here we go. Boop, boop, boop. That's what I wanted. I did want to show this. Okay, so you've seen like Danger Girl and dollar bins and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
A few times I go to stores. Sure.
yeah. So you'll see like this is the preview of Danger Girl #1.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes, actually.
Yes. Okay, but this one, yeah, I've shown this before. I
follow enough people on Instagram too. These things pop up.
Perfect. Nobody needs to. Here we go. Hey, buddy.
Oh, hey guys.
So what we did is, I'm showing off Danger Girl. There is one Danger Girl cover. There's one Danger Girl early book, first appearance, #1 kind of deal. That is worth money, and it is in dollar bins.
The sexy one.
Yeah, so no, that's #2. That's issue 2. The Gunsmoke. The issue I'm talking about is this. This is an alternate cover for Danger Girls #1, and this is the disco variant.
That's really nice.
This is frustrating to try to find in any grade on eBay. And I did the thing I did the thing again that I always do. I bought the bottom out, and so now the price is higher for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent, with taxes, fees, shipping, and everything, I spent $80. Next lowest copy you can get, there's another $80. There's another $80 in bid that you can get, and then everything after that is $300, $400 and up, and they're all graded. So like, there's only one of the raw copy you can get right now, but like that. So keep your eyes out. If you see that, they only made 5,000 of them. I only know that number because in the back of one of the stories, they say, here it is. We only made 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So,
I think I missed something in between when I stopped watching downstairs to when you started showing disco Danger Girl.
We were just talking about we'll do it. We'll do it this way. Brandon, what is something that you think actually causes harm to some part of the hobby?
Man, you had me thinking about this. Like, ever since you posed the question that you were going to address tonight, like cooking dinner, I'm thinking, so poses a threat to the hobby. I mean, it's cliched. I'd say time, because, as we move on, sure, modern books will keep coming out, modern storylines, but what about the collectors? Like, I know you collect some older stuff too, Ricky, but like Alan and I are prime examples. We love Silver Age. He's high into the Golden Age. I'm dipping my toes in it, and I love it. But are the next generation is going to do that? Is anyone going to care? I bought these books to enjoy the art and the stories as well. I'm a hybrid of, both slabbing and raw and reading online stuff. But, I want to give these to my kids. And at the very most, what I want to do is just enjoy them now. Give them to my kids so they have memories of me and say, oh, my dad was into comics. He loved monsters, Daredevil, and have it tell a story about what I was into that my kids can remember me by. And if they can happen to move, if they are still able to sell the collection at the time, that's just a bonus, because it may not be, they might not, the market might not be there in 50 years, like 20 years, 30 years. So as cliched as it is, I think time is the real fighting force right now.
But think about how cool that is. So we all go to comic book stores and we see those kids like come in and be like, hey man, my dad was really into this stuff, and he passed away, and I like he always said that I should sell it. And you that new comic collector at the store goes like, Jesus, look at this collection, it's awesome. Like one day, 70 years from now, your 40-year-old kid's going to be going into a store, and for like a half an hour, they're going to be a celebrity. Like everybody's like,
Yeah.
wow, tell me about your dad. Oh, you ran a YouTube channel. His name was Brandon.
If they're into it, you know, if they're
even
still,
if they're just getting rid of it, even if they're just selling it, you give them
That's
that
true.
gift of like for an hour and a half. I went to a comic book store and like everybody
Yeah.
fawned over me.
That's true. I just, you know, if they can, they can. I don't care. I guess, you know, when I went to Free Comic Book Day this year and saw that probably 12-year-old kid, I told the story in my video. I saw this kid just walk by, and he had an art print, and he had comics stacked up, and action figures, and the smile on his face, like he was about to go home and it was about to get real. So like if that continues what I saw, then that kid, you know, that somewhere along the line, the kid could dip into what I'm interested in and keep the hobby as far as the older stuff going. Other than that, toxicity. I mean, that's always, you know, like gatekeeping in hobbies. I see it in every hobby. Star Wars toys, Magic the Gathering. Here, it's, you know,
Tennis, equestrian arts, sculptures,
So
everything.
You know what I actually think is I think gatekeeping is good in a weird way. I always like to be
Here we go.
contrarian. And the reason I say gatekeeping is good is it's sort of like when kids are young, they're taught, oh, you know, you got to wait till you're older to drink, you know, beer or whatever it is. There's that gatekeeping based on age, right? And then so kids are like, oh, I got to sneak, sneak a beer or whatever. They got to do that, right? So that gatekeeping actually makes it more intriguing in a weird way. I know it sounds strange, but it's like people that have those, oh, those guys have all the books, makes collectors, the collector gene within us go, oh, I want to get those cool books too. I want to be one of those guys that has all the cool things and all the cool toys. And, you know, so I think though it's annoying, I actually hate gatekeeping personally, but I can see how it can actually trigger that weirdness in us. I think we all have that weird gene where we want to be the one with the cool toy. Just like Ricky picked up the disco one and he's like, oh, once you get it, it's like, look what I got, guys. Look what I got.
Okay, so you know what?
So,
when you
see what I'm
started,
saying?
I was when you started talking, I pictured the judge being like, let him cook. And like I just kept listening.
Yeah.
And then eventually you got to a place where I did kind of agree with you. It does feel nice when you're like, check it out. And that guy's like, oh shit. And then it is a camaraderie, because then when you see his collection or her collection or their collection, you go like, oh, that's a really cool book, and you pay it back to them. Even though you wouldn't buy the book they have, you can still compliment and like, I can make fun of my kids. You can make fun of your kids. You can't make fun of my kids.
Yeah. So, you know, I personally, like, you know, people are really worried about the hobby, like in terms of whether or not it's going to last. And the only reason we're concerned about that is the quality of the books that are coming out nowadays. They're only cover buys for the most part. There are a few good stories. I mean, there's some good ones in there. I'm not saying that everything's bad. I'm not that kind of person. But there's a few mixed in. Like there's enough bad stuff that it taints the hobby and it's pushed people out. What we need is to go back to actually, you know, you guys were talking about earlier that comics should, you know, have new characters, have new stuff, be original. Actually, I believe the total opposite of that. You know, if you look at what worked in the past and what made people excited about comics, it was telling the same story over and over again, but in a different way. You know, it used to be boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl. That was the story that everyone would tell. And you would tell it 20 different ways, 100 different ways, 1,000 different ways. And that story has that sort of universal appeal to everybody. And there's stories out there that we can sort of relate to that are missing from like our current culture. And I think we need to go back to those stories that have the universal appeal and start retelling those great stories that we all love. So it's not about being original, actually. It's actually about being more in tune with what people actually like.
Do you Do you read any of the new comics? Do you read any modern,
Yeah, I
either in
do.
trade paperback? Like, are there
Um,
any stories though that are original and fresh that you found you enjoyed? That aren't following the formula you're talking about.
So yeah, so both Ricky and I like Crossed. Okay.
Quite a bit.
And
Quite a bit.
if you look at Cross on the surface, how can that have that universal story that both Ricky and I that I just mentioned? I said, oh, it has to have this kind of universal story, right? But it does actually, with the psychotic mix on top of it, the psychotic crazy stuff on top. It actually has a universal story of betrayal, of trying to protect the ones you love, about these basic universal themes that we all can relate to, and then it's put into this weird psychotic environment that also lends like interest to it. So I'm not like, when I say tell the same story or tell like a story that has a universal truth, doesn't mean that you can't be original with that. It just means that you have to have some core that people can relate to, and then you put your cool twist on it. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
All right.
Okay, so changing gears. We got meta so cool. We broke a land speed record for meta.
Well, that's my fault. Yeah, sorry about that.
Good
Time
Lord.
gatekeeping
Stories. Yeah. Oh, sorry, honey. I'm gonna have to gatekeep these cigarettes from you. That's dad. No. So okay. Here's something. Bad art. And we know good art. We know what good art looks like, and we know stylized art. Here, I'm gonna. Oh God, I kicked him off. There we go.
You just kicked him.
I was like, God, I was like, bye. I mean, I don't look. It's even when I started saying it started coming out janky. It's difficult to talk about like bad art because like, what is bad art?
Yeah.
Like what is it? And I think it's kind of like the definition, like Congress's definition of pornography. Like I know it when I see it. And what I mean by bad art is art that seems to be style over substance. Perspectives are kind of bad. I mean, like functionally bad. Like that woman's hand is bigger than her ass. Like how is like all of these things like that make art weird to look at.
I think Liefeld is.
I was just, you read my mind. Yeah.
he would be the best one to answer this question. And
so I was reading a comic by The Dark One, and it's Animal Mystic. Mystic for mature readers. This is the same company that made Dawn. You're too small, pervert. Hold on.
Oh wait, made me big. I'm not too small now.
This is difficult. Shut up. Hold on.
Again, hold on. I have the power. I can gatekeep now.
I see 8 books I'd love to own right now at this moment.
Hold on. I moved him. I don't know how to do this. Add to stage. There we go. Okay, he's back here. But here's the thing. Okay, Animal Mystic.
Okay, looks cool.
No, it does. He's a really good artist, but he's super inconsistent. There's a back cover, also sick.
Oh, it looks good. Like everything so far, good.
Great.
Yeah, it looks like
a lot of pornography in this. So you try to select your panels.
Okay. Now you're selling the book to me, is what you're saying. Okay.
Kind of weird proportions. Okay, let me find like a horrible one. These are some ugly people.
Yeah, sometimes their face will be a little wonky. I can see that. Yeah, like that guy's face is a little wonky.
Gene Simmons-y kind of, and there's like a bubbly
Looks like
quality.
Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
But so
Weird Al
and it's
Yankovic
and the story is a reincarnated witch woman who's on Earth. She's reincarnated, and she has a energy nunchucks, and she has a giant pet tiger, and she has an airbrushed bottom. And this is the story. And so like it's super stylized, and the guy's really inconsistent, and I felt bad saying like, oh, this guy's I felt bad. See, that's the one I wanted. I hate everything. I felt bad saying that like his art was bad, right? But it's ugly to me. And literally today, I was watching the Comics Den, and there's this guy that I really respect on their channel, and he owns a comic store, and he's always giving great deals. And he's talking about how much he loves this guy's art, and then he shows original art of this guy, and it was beautiful. But I don't know if like he was young in his career, but like even now, like I feel like I'm backpedaling a little bit, shitting on someone who's like putting art in the world, because like I put art in the world too, and so that means someone's entitled to shit on me. I don't know if am I allowed to say that like some art kind of sucks?
So like here's the truth about it. Like you can say whatever art you want sucks. It's your own opinion. It's okay to have an opinion. You know, I think one of the things that we're always nervous about is being judgmental, right? And I actually think that that's a mistake. I think we should be more judgmental and have our own opinions.
Jesus.
And actually
Christ.
say it. Like, you know, the point is like when we have our own opinions, people can disagree with those opinions, and they can make a case for why our opinions are dumb or whatever. You know, I kind of think that kind of dialogue is missing from our society nowadays. People are so scared of like saying something that might offend somebody. I've never been worried about offending people because I'm pretty offensive.
JP,
Yo, sorry.
There's got you came on. You've got to have something that you don't like about this hobby. That's something that's making this hobby worse in some way.
I don't know. I was outside and then just all of a sudden appeared inside a different church.
I know I got kicked out outside, so I had to come inside.
He's come into the red wall room.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to come back inside, but trying to hook everything back up. But anyway, what does bother me the most, if you can hear me all right, is
I can perfectly.
The goal setting.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, I need keep going.
All right, so like put it this way, for in regard to work, right? We all set goals for work depending on what our job is, but this is supposed to be a hobby. It's not a job. So it's nice to have goals, but it can't be like the end of the world if you don't achieve the goal or to
it can feel like it can make it feel like work is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I don't think that's I think that you get too far in the weeds in that regard, saying that everyone has to have a goal and you have to meet these goals by the end of the year. I just think it's nice if do as you like collect as you like, enjoy the hobby. Everyone says enjoy as you like, no one will judge, but people always judge. That's probably another take on that goal aspect, is that people judge the collections and what you have. Like myself, I've gone from, let's say Bronze Age, we'll call them grails, to Torchy #1 and Gore Shriek #1, and I get more enjoyment out of those than I do the stuff behind me. So it's a different setup now. That's all.
Okay, so you said something that I immediately want to go around on this one. Starting with Brandon, in a brief sentence, tell me something that you do judge. You see it and you immediately have a snap judgment about like, oh, you shouldn't do that with your books, or oh, must be nice.
Okay, first off, just to piggyback off JP, I thought about this year at the beginning of the year not making a collecting goal video for that very reason. Like, it's good to have goals in life, sure, but I just am grateful I'm picking up what I'm picking up. Like, I should be thankful for that. Like, I'm so happy with my collection, and I'm happy with my friends' collection and what they're getting. And Ricky's getting all sorts of weird shit that I dig, and it turns me on to stuff. And JP's doing his thing, and he's sending me pictures of the Gore Shriek. And I know, Alan, you're collecting the greats, man, and classic artists. Like, I almost didn't make that video, but I digress. Judgy, what do I judge about? Like comic YouTubers or people in
literally
general,
anything related to the hobby, anything at all.
God, you hit me with the hard questions, Ricky. I really try not to judge.
I hear you think about it. I'll go first. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Please don't hate me, everybody. Please don't hate me, my friends. I do immediately put someone in a category when they slam books.
when they slab books.
Like right away, it's not when I say judgment, I don't necessarily mean like I hate that guy, but like sometimes like when something happens, when somebody like if someone runs up to me in running shoes and lycra, I think to myself, oh, they run. Like if someone submits books to CGC, I think, okay, you're either selling them or you don't really read them. I make that judgment a lot. Like I know I feel like my judgment is most people who regularly submit to CGC don't read very much.
Then what I judge is people that say that. Like I read it in Facebook comments, I read it on Instagram, and it's like you slab your books, you don't read them. And I have, I've always liked to read comics or graphic novels. Really was stoked back in 2001. I got back into reading 2002 in college when I took that course. I didn't collect, but I read. And as we've gone on with technology, it's gotten easier to get our hands on stuff. But I've really dove back in within the past few years of it. And grading was secondary to that. Like I didn't, grading didn't come out till that wasn't in my realm till after that. So they appeal to the artist in me. And I can still, I love to enjoy some of these pieces as absolute works of art, pop culture art that they are. But I'll still find a way to read the story. I'm still reading trade paperbacks and stuff because I want to be able to connect. I want to be able to explore new worlds and connect with people. Like I just read the first issue of Twig because 22 recommended it. It's fucking wonderful. It was like Jim Henson, Labyrinth-esque, really cute, well written. Scotty Young really writes that well. And I don't plan on getting any of those slabbed. Maybe like if I fell in love with the cover. But yeah, so I guess my judgment is judgment against people like you, Ricky. I'm here to defend the raw slab collector. I don't even know what you want to call it, amalgamation, but people who go.
Do you ever see yourself? Do you ever see a day where even just under the auspices of cleaning, pressing, and resubmitting, do you ever see a day where you would like open up like your Daredevil one and go for an upgrade or something? Or never, I mean, like even just to open it and go through it once.
Oh, like in that sense. Oh.
Like like you open it, you go through it, you read it, you take some pictures of you holding it, and then you send it back and slab it again.
I would do that. I would absolutely do that. Like, more money wasn't an option, but
right.
I'm taking pictures with the Stan Lee autograph that I got from Bigby before I sent it in for authentication, so I can have that memory, frame it next to it, but also say this book is been signed by Stan Lee, and someday maybe worth something, maybe not. My daughters will know. But I would I'd crack open my DD1 to get it to read it and send it back in. Hell yeah, I think that'd be a fun experiment. People would probably friggin' come after me, but who cares?
JP, what's something in this hobby that you judge? You have a judgment on?
Say people like Ricky.
No, because there are more. I believe authentically there are more people like me. I'm just admitting that I judge things. We all do. We all make value judgments. If you have a free night off and your wife says, blowjob in television tonight, or your friend says pinball museum, you say pinball museum and you put your blow up doll away. It is exactly that. You make value judgments every day. Ham on my pizza versus pepperoni, and we all do. I'm just pointing it out that come on, JP. I know you got something.
I mean, I guess if I'm going to judge something, it's going to be the people that the people like you, Ricky, that talk about the stories that are so great that I could care less about a goddamn story. All I want to look at is the cover and the artist. I want the Dave Stevens. I want the McFarlane. But in that regard, I did just read this like 20 minutes ago. Finish this up. So
nice.
After today's discussion, I had to read it. So it was pretty good. So I judge the readers, but I appreciate the readers who tell me what's good to read. So
it is good. It is good. You will never hear me say it is bad. I have an effect. I have to
say, I started to read. Okay, this may not be considered the great writing, but Miracle Man's great, right? Barry Windsor Smith, great artist. He drew Exo Man of War. Correct. He's known as a good writer. He's no Alan Moore, but he's a good writer, from my understanding. Read that Exo Man of War, and I was like, this is dull as hell. Love the comic.
I hated Exo Man of War. It's terrible.
It's not very good. I mean, when I started reading Miracle Man, It's pretty good. I mean, it's good, but it's not like The Killing Joke was something.
Dude, wait. How far did you
riveting.
get? How far did you get?
On Miracle Man,
Yeah.
I got through. I think I have 1 through 4 on trade paperback. I read like 1 and 2, and it's
Okay.
kind of like
Yeah,
out
you went
there.
in. Yeah,
It's
you
out
went, and
there
it
in a
keeps
sense.
getting weirder.
But not as much the weirdness as the fact that maybe I didn't know enough of the backstory to follow
No,
along.
you're getting it. If it doesn't hit you, it just doesn't hit you. But yeah, I mean that's your it's a valid opinion if it doesn't hit you, but it does. So Miracle Man, for the uninitiated, it's written as if there is it's like an SNL joke. You know how it just like won't end and they just
Right.
like keep going and they keep playing it. It's like that, but narratively. Like, okay, well then now this guy has powers. Okay, well then what if someone else gets powers? And then what if someone else gets powers? And he like builds a universe of superpowered, like, you know, because how Shazam can give his powers to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
He gives them to his wife, and then he gives them to his kids, and then he gives them to his grandkids, and every new family member he initiates into having power, but he's not dying. So now hundreds and thousands of years has gone by, and there is a caste system of overlords, like princes in the sky, and they all have Captain Marvel powers, and they're all endlessly magical and powerful. And like how does the world look after like 10,000 years of that? It's wild, but that's only like the end of it. But the whole beginning of the story is just building to this like weird alternate dystopia. Alan Moore, man, if we get 10,000 more books from Alan Moore and then he dies, we didn't have him long enough. That man.
Reading and I thought was good. I read what is it, Miracle Man number 15, Death of Kid Miracle Man.
That's you have to admit that's messed up. Then when they characterize the inside of his head, that's dark.
Yeah, that is dark. And I
haven't read it either, Alan.
I haven't read Miracle Man, but
see, here's the thing. Next time you
I
go
have
to a con,
books, believe it or not, but
there you go. But Brandon, next time you go to a con, literally any con, Marvel, when
It'll
they
be
finally, when Marvel secured the rights to Miracle Man, it was Eclipse Comics, and it was like fought over for years who owned the thing. Marvel finally cleared it up. Yes, that's issue 1.
I've seen that cover. Yeah,
issue 1.
Yep.
Here's a fucked up one right there.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, I mean, just saying.
I feel you. We all came into the world that way. It is an accurate drawing of a birth, but like a medically accurate drawing. They had staff, they had experts, and they drew what a birth looks like. And so, is it shocking? It's shocking, but like it's art. Yeah.
That's the Death of Kid
that's
Miracle.
The Death of Kid Miracle. Yeah.
Yo,
it took me a while to find that one.
Ricky, have you ever read? You probably haven't because it's Marvel. It's from the 80s. Strike Force Morituri.
No, what is that?
Okay. So this guy that works with me, well, he works for a fire alarm company that comes into our buildings, and he was talking about. I gave him a comic. I gifted him the Deceased cover, the Nightmare on Elm Street homage cover, because he's a huge core horror fan, and he has a crypt cave that I'm going to come actually do a video on sometime soon. Like all these signed memorabilia and stuff. He's huge. It's his whole basement. But he recommended Strike Force Morituri, and he said the plot is aliens are invading Earth, and they've almost got us. They've almost taken it over. But the scientist figures out how to. 5% of the population has this gene that they can do this procedure on, and it will give you superpowers and like strength, speed. Like it makes you a superhero. And if you take this responsibility on, your family's set for life. Like no one has to, like the government takes care of them. They're all set. But the catch is this is such a powerful thing that it kills you in 1 year.
Oh.
So
That's
the heroes, yeah, I know. I was like, so I'm just about to. I just ordered it on eBay, $12.99 for a lot of 14.
Oh, so cheap.
Yeah, there's a Death Dollarman book. I've seen that before. I didn't realize that was the premise. It sounds pretty interesting.
That story sounds pretty freaking cool.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I was like, that is like a great what if comic. We don't have a lot of those stories that think like that.
It's like Escape from New York.
Yes.
For that.
Yes, same. Yeah, kind of the same principle, but I didn't know if you had read it, Ricky. And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, I got to tell some comic friends about this because they don't know. We got to get on this. That sounds amazing. So I hear stuff about that, like for new books, but also books from the 80s with these. And I'm like, oh, I got to go back and get those because I'll go get them for the story, Absolutely.
Yeah.
So don't
Strike Force Morituri.
Strike Force
Yeah,
More 3.
I can picture the cover myself. I've seen that 100 times. I didn't know it was at a cool store like that.
Oh God, Bleaker.
Pit.
Pit with two T's. I know he meant it with two T's. That's the one he's talking about. It's the superhero made from aborted babies. Like
Oh, wow.
like
Isn't that the boys?
like all of the aborted babies were put into a dumpster, and then that's where the secret of the ooze broke. And then that's
Oh,
what
wow.
that's what it's the Pit, PITT. It had action
Mhm.
figures and everything. Like
Oh,
You
no,
guys
they-
know about
Yeah.
some wild shit out there.
yeah.
dude, it's fun. So I find that like so right now I'm reading The Darkness.
Okay.
I'm reading The Darkness. I'm on issue 8. Mark Silvestri art. The art is amazing. I would say, okay, in the 90s, Michael Turner turned everybody into Michael Turner. Like Michael Turner like metastasized and broke into several other Michael Turner artists. And
Mhm.
like a Rob Liefeld was like if you're out on the road and you say like, hey mom, can we get Rob Liefeld? And she goes, we have Michael Turner. Hey mom, can we get Michael Turner? And she says, we have Michael Turner at home. Rob Liefeld is Michael Turner at home. It's the weaker, it's the Hannaford brand version. It's the Magic Stars, the Incline Mist, the Dr. Pibb. It's the worst. But then you also get like a Mark Silvestri. I would say Mark Silvestri is the best Michael Turner of the Michael Turner knockoffs. But his art is,
They're all part of that 90s look, right?
yeah. So, okay, you know how everybody makes fun of Liefeld and they say like pockets? Like that's like the word you go to when you're making fun of Liefeld. When you're making fun of like Mark Silvestri and you're making fun of the 90s, you really should be talking about like metal cage bikinis. Everything was a bikini made of a metal cage, perfectly shaped at any point in time to her curvatures. Like it doesn't even make sense. She'd move and like it would just impale her. Like she'd be immediately dead.
Those
way
were the
that shape.
days.
Everything's
those
a
bikinis.
liquid metal bikini.
Hmm.
Those were the days.
Hmm.
Alan, what is something that you judge in the hobby? You won't let me down. You're
No,
a
I
monster
won't
just
let
like
you
me.
I'm just saying there's so many things I'm just trying to pick one.
If you say woke, I will hurl your computer into a bridge.
No,
Anything but woke.
No, more one of the things that bothers me, and it's actually not about woke, actually it's more about modern collectors versus, I'm a golden age collector now. Like I was not always a golden age collector, but I've become a golden age collector. And the thing that bothers me is like when I see people they get some cool modern book. It's one of 10 million that have been produced of that cool modern book. And they go, and it's like, if they spent like X dollars on it, like some crazy amount, and it's the coolest thing for them. And sure, it's cool for them, but I get like this feeling like, wow, why didn't they just buy this cool golden age book that's super rare and super cool and like way better and better investment and better every way, better story, better art, better like just like it's just that it's a pet peeve. Like, and it's one of the, and that same person that gets this like really expensive modern book will be the first one they'll say, oh, those golden age books, just can't afford them. it's like, what are you doing, man?
There are some wildly expensive modern books. Like
I
wildly
don't like getting
expensive.
priced out of them like that either, too, because there's like a great crow cover. Bleaker will tell you what it is. I don't know. It was an exclusive.
Oh,
But
is
I
it that
mean,
black and white? The fucking mosquito in here.
He's sitting at the table. I think he's got a drink in his hand, and the crow's right there. It's beautiful, but it came out of the gates. I mean, okay, yes. Could I not buy stuff around me and buy it? Sure.
Yeah.
But I just feel like newer comics shouldn't have that kind of price tag. Like if they're being such, mass produced.
It's sort of like that Blood Hunt that just dropped recently. That's like a $250 book.
The Thor one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's cooler. That's my point. There's cooler stuff for cheaper.
Let me ask this question though: when it comes to Golden Age, like pre-code horror, you can pick up something like Shock Suspense remake. Okay. That's not the original, but you want to read the story, like the difference between the modern one, the Blood Hunt, and something like this. again, in a couple years, that Bloodhound's probably not going to be worth anywhere near what the original of this will be worth,
I
right?
have the original of that, so yeah.
I mean, that's a great book, but I mean, I don't know if I'd spend $5,000 on it, but I can get it for $1 for here. I mean, like, I guess if you want the cover and you want that story,
that's completely different, right? That's like someone who wants to be able to have that book to read the story and can enjoy the art too, that might not have the resources to get that book. It's not the same as,
what I was describing is somebody that has actually the resources, but they're choosing modern over a golden age.
So so what you're saying is if you've got $5,000, you can't rationalize someone spending $5,000 on a modern book if golden is available. Right?
A modern hot thing of the week is my more of an issue. I find that that they're just too plentiful. There's and the some of them are just not at that level that are really great. Like, they're good. I'd say they're good, but they're not great.
Well, that's also why they make those books too, JP, is so someone can afford it. Because the homage covers, the Wolverine one too is Sabretooth. The Suspense Stories 22. It's the same homage as Thor, I guess. But yeah, people can't.
Yeah. And okay. So now we're back full force into judging because I judge. I'm apparently I'm just like, hey guys, come and let me just yell at people. Right. I'll hide behind you. Okay. So JP has that shock and suspense storybook.
I have it too, actually.
Alan has that shock and suspense storybook. Mm-hmm. Even if I'm wrong, which one of them do you think is more likely to have read it? The one that owns the dollar version of the book, or the one that actually owns the super expensive book, but it's in a slab in his house? Which one? Hold on, before you say anything, just guess in the chat. Which one of them do you think is more likely to have actually participated in the story of that book? All I'm saying, I judge a little bit.
I agree. Yeah, actually, that is a thing, right?
Did you read it though, Alan?
I've read some of them, but not that one. No.
Why did you buy that one?
Because I love the cover.
Right,
freaking iconic.
Because it's a bondage cover.
And that's a perfectly fine answer.
Wally Wood is one of my favorites.
Yep, that's a perfectly fine answer. It's a perfecly fine answer to say I bought it for the cover.
I didn't read it though.
Yeah, so a lot of these, like a lot of the books that I do buy for the cover, I have to say. And I have read a lot of them, but I buy too much. I just can't keep up with all the reading.
That's true. That's true. I see you unbox a lot of shit.
Everybody, I'm sorry, Alan. Nobody would bet on you. So that's an example of people judging.
The dollar guy.
That's a person of people judging, and they're just,
but
they are judging.
I don't mind that judgment because, if there's people that love reading the books, and I do read a lot, but there's just too much that I bought that I can't keep up with it all.
Okay, so that's okay.
And generally,
that's
what I'll do is I'll binge read, like I'll do sort of like the Netflix style of reading, where I just will binge read a whole series, right? But generally, I buy a lot of books based on the cover.
So that's okay. It's interesting you said that because I've recently changed my mind a couple weeks ago, and it's been living a different life. It's different. I asked myself, is it fair for me to experience every single comic book that I have in a run in one shot? Because that's not how anyone ever experienced it when it came out.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing now is I've placed a soft limit on myself. Like if I'm in love and I can't stop, I'm not going to stop. You hear that, AMC? I don't care if you caught me. I'm going to do it again. If I feel it, I'm going to keep going. But I limit myself to 2 books a night of one series. So I will limit myself to 2 Darkness, 2 Danger Girl, 2 Batman, whatever. I'll jump around like that. But because I feel like I'm not being fair to how everyone else experienced the story. 2 makes sense to me because sometimes you missed a month, you go in, you buy the 2 books, and there you go, you got 2. That makes sense. But anything more than that, I'm you're just getting into it for the first time like anybody else.
One thing that I've noticed, and this is because of my reading style, is that when I read a series like that, I don't remember which story fit for which book. I'm not sure if you know what I mean. So let's say you read 20 books in a series. And then somebody says, "Oh, I really liked book 5 of that series." I'm like, "What was that?" Because it's all blended together at that. In my mind, there's no. I don't because I read the books all at once. It doesn't really I don't really associate one book to the story, like one specific book to the story. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
know the whole story. You know that
Yeah.
story you read, but you
I
don't know
know
where
the
that.
story, but I
Right.
wouldn't be able to say, "Oh, yeah, that part in book 3." And there's comic collectors like Matt is a good example of this. Matt, likes comics guy. He knows the story related to a specific book. I don't have that knowledge. So in a weird way, I feel like what you're doing with reading only 2 books from a series actually might be a better way of doing it, because then you do say, "Oh, okay, this book is this story," rather than the way I have it, which is just all jumbled together.
Richard says, I'm gonna watch Star Wars: A New Hope with my son, then tell him he can't watch Empire for another 3 years.
I'm telling him he's a sick man.
That's legit.
That's the way to do it. That way he experiences it the way we experienced it.
All right,
My
so
kid-
we've only got
kid
5
just
minutes
started-
left. We're gonna
All right.
keep it tight, but I want to end with this. I'm gonna go around the horn, and I want to hear something you just don't get about this hobby. Some aspect I don't get it. Not for me. You can know about it, or you can have avoided knowledge about it. If you don't want, I don't want to know anything about that. Alan, I'm going to make you go.
Thank God. I need a second.
You look the most confused.
Thought I did.
Now with him, it's all forehead. You can read it like a
I'm
topographical map.
all forehead. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
He knew I was
forehead
going to say
keeps
that
on
before I
going.
said it. Telekinetic motherfucker. Alan doesn't get the question. Shit.
No, I don't know. I can't think of something. I'm one of those people that likes to know everything about everything. So
Okay. I don't get random sci-fi covers from the golden age. I get the ones where it's like, "Oh dude, check out this like frozen exploding corpse." Like when Brandon got his about like the space guy, I was like, "That's sick." But when they're like,
did you get the Weird Tales?
Weird Science, the Wally Wood used in Snuff for the Innocent
okay. There's
one.
another one with the LB Cole one. Where
I want that one too. Yeah,
that's the other one. Okay, so
you guys are
yeah,
bad
so
at
that I get, so I get that. But when they're like, "Oh, this one's special because the planet's red, and people know him for having that guy's standing on what it apparently is a space car, and the planet is red. Those are the things that make it $70,000. I don't get it. And they've never read it, Alan. They've never read the book, so there's no like, "Oh no." Even if you just read it and bullshitted
there's a good
me,
example of that, like Contact. I think is it Contact 12.
like even if you just
that
read
I
it and
really like
bullshitted me though, even if you just read the book and said like, "Oh yeah, well there's one really cool scene where he fires a laser gun, it looks sick," I wouldn't know.
There's a cool Weird Tales like that actually has a great story, that has a crappy cover, that has a great story.
Okay,
It's about the red robots
JP,
and
JP,
gold robots.
Alan lost his mind. JP, what's something you don't get?
I think and this may be just something simple, but it's the variant covers, and just people just dying over these variant covers. Like it's hard to keep up with all the various, like when you go back, like Cheddar Comics is having a sale tonight, and like these variants, it's hard to even tell where the hell they originated from, which one's the first print, why is it more valuable. Like they're all so similar. The Virgin cover, the trade dress cover, like I don't get it. It's the same goddamn cover except has the letters on it or trade dress. Like why is it so much more money? It just does. I don't get that part of it. I don't judge anybody for doing that, but I just don't get it myself. So maybe that's not too prolific, but it is what it is.
Brandon, what do you not get?
I mean, I was almost going to jump with JP, but the thing is, like, there are a ton of variant covers that, like, if something comes out that I see and I love it for the art, I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. That artist did a good job. And I might want to pick it up. So I can't, then I'm being judgy if I'm like, oh, those same people bug me, that are going after all those variants. But
I thought of something finally, by the way. Okay.
Go ahead, Alan. I'm still thinking.
Okay, so I don't get Ricky. So Ricky doesn't like pre-code horror. How can somebody not like pre-code horror and the covers?
Because he doesn't like
I
that
just don't
it's
get that. I just
he
don't
doesn't
get
like that it's just a cover, and that he always says, and you
And the
told me,
stories are pretty cool too. You read some
but
of those stories.
98% of the people are buying them aren't buying them for the stories. There isn't some riveting story. Like when they're like crime suspense stories 22, the third story in that book is the best book I've. It's
No.
we're buying it for the friggin' decapitation cover. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Like to me, like there is that appeal, like there is that art appeal, right? That shock and like, you know, it's sort of like, why would anyone buy the Mona Lisa? I mean, oh, it's just a painting. It's just a girl standing with a weird smile. You know, that's the kind of level. So I thought Ricky would be more art savvy and appreciative of beautiful art from the golden age. I just, yeah.
No, well, okay. So here's the thing. So to defend myself, I think it's. I think what it is it's not. Here it is. Everybody, I'm going to give you the analogy of a lifetime.
Okay.
Oh boy.
We're all talking about music here.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are talking about music right now. You with me? Music,
Sure.
not comic books. Every one of these motherfuckers loves country. All of them love country. And they keep telling me about how good country is and how fun it is. And they're like certain types of country. And I just don't like it. It doesn't hit my taste buds the same way pizza hits yours. You know what I'm saying? Some people love eggplant parmesan. I prefer chicken. It's just it's a difference of taste. And I think that, you know what, this is a good place to end. I think that answer makes some people uncomfortable because we're so rational as human beings. We try to be rational about all of our decisions. I picked my wife because I love her, and I love her because of the following reasons that don't sound like I love her. Like she's loyal, dependable, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? It's your lover. That's enough. The feeling is enough. You don't need to dissect why you love her so much.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Comic book art and art like this, it is all subjective. And I think it's a part of us to want to characterize and explain why we don't like something as much as we do like it. We can all of us wax poetic for 10 hours about a single comic book and why we love the cover and the artist and the story and the history and the price and how we got it. We can do that forever about things that we love, but like, isn't it human to also be able to appropriately reflect on the things that don't make you happy? Why do they not make you happy? Every unpleasant experience is a South Pole. We all talk about our North Pole. My North Star is my family. My North Star is my job or my honor, whatever. We should also talk about our South Star, our South Pole. What should we be moving away from that brings us displeasure? Because you should enjoy this hobby the way that you like. But that also means you should stay away from the shit that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody, this has been really fun. I'm going to throw these last comments on the screen. I love all of you for showing up. I love all of you for being here on camera. Even Alan, once they find the rest of that girl, buddy, you're going away for a